Would you still stand by your favorite Port Charles heroes if you knew that their desperate silence might actually be costing another innocent life? If you ask me, guys, our loyalty is about to be tested like never before as a terrifying new conspiracy takes shape in the dark corners of Spoon Island. With Britt still missing and running for her life alongside little Rocco, the stakes have escalated to a point of no return, and we can all feel the impending explosion. It is a classic soap opera setup, but this time the emotional weight feels heavier, darker, and infinitely more dangerous. We know that the mysterious and highly dangerous cold synthesis project spearheaded by Ross and Jens has ground to a complete and frustrating halt. The brilliant but vanished Brit was the mastermind behind the scientific breakthrough, and without her, the entire operation is nothing more than a collection of useless data and stagnant test tubes. Jens, with his cold and calculated demeanor, is firmly of the belief that Brit is entirely irreplaceable, a unique scientific mind whose work cannot simply be replicated by some random lab tech. But Ross is far too impatient and ruthless to sit around and wait for the special forces of the WSB or BRICS tracking team to find her. If you ask me, Ross is becoming a loose cannon, desperate enough to do the unthinkable to keep this highly lucrative, potentially deadly project alive. That is where the formidable, sharp-tongued, and fiercely protective Liesl comes into the picture. Ross has set his sights on her as the ultimate replacement for her missing daughter, and honestly, guys, it makes perfect, terrifying sense. Liesl has a massive scientific background, a mind that operates at a level of genius, and let's not forget her deeply complicated, dark history with the legacy of Phazon. She has the intellectual capacity and the raw nerve to pick up right where Britt left off, but we all know Liesl is not the type to just follow orders, especially from a couple of armed thugs. There is no way she would ever voluntarily cooperate with a project that has already caused her family so much grief and forced her beloved daughter into hiding. So, how do Ross and Jens plan to break a woman who has survived some of the most dangerous villains in the world? They are going to play incredibly dirty, and my mind is completely blown by the sheer cruelty of their potential leverage. We have to consider the dark, looming presence of Cassius, who has been causing his own brand of trouble on Spoon Island. What if Ross and Jens use Cassius, or the painful, unresolved memories of Nathan, to twist the knife in Liesl's heart? The mere mention of Nathan is enough to make Liesl's steel exterior crumble, and if they threaten to unleash Cassius or manipulate her maternal instincts, she might find herself backed into a corner with absolutely no escape. But the twisted plot deepens even further because Ross and Jens realize that Liesl cannot run this complex, highly sensitive laboratory operation entirely on her own. They need someone with precise clinical skills, someone who can monitor. Enter Lucas, our dedicated, kind-hearted doctor who has been doing his absolute best to stay out of the shadows of the criminal underworld. Lucas was recently seen working alongside Sonny and Laura to corner the slippery Pascal at the warehouse, showing that he has a brave heart, but he is completely unprepared for the nightmare Ross has prepared for him. If you ask me, dragging Lucas into this web of scientific terror is a stroke of pure, evil genius on the part of the writers. Lucas is a man of medicine, a healer who believes in saving lives, not creating biological weapons or working under duress for shadow organizations. But Ross knows exactly how to manipulate him. By threatening the lives of Lucas's loved ones, Ross creates an inescapable cage. Lucas is the kind of man who would gladly sacrifice his own safety, his own career, and even his own soul if it meant keeping the people he loves out of harm's way. I keep coming back to the thought of how devastating this partnership is going to be. Can you imagine the sheer tension in that secret, sterile laboratory as Liesl and Lucas are forced to work side by side under the watchful, menacing eyes of Ross and Jens? The contrast between Liesl's fiery, German-accented defiance and Lucas's quiet, mounting panic is going to make for some of the most gripping television we have seen all year. They are both brilliant minds, but they are being treated as mere tools, intellectual slaves to a project they both despise. Yet, there is a glimmer of hope in this dark storyline, and it lies in the sheer resilience of these two characters. And Liesl is not a victim. She is a survivor of the highest order, and Lucas is far more resourceful than people give him credit for. I can't help but feel that they are going to form a secret pact right under the noses of their captors. Instead of actually completing the cold synthesis, there is a strong chance they will start a subtle, highly coordinated campaign of internal sabotage. They will pretend to comply, adjusting chemical formulas by mere fractions, delaying test results, and dragging their feet just enough to buy precious time. This turns the entire laboratory arc into a high-stakes psychological chess match. Lucas and Liesl will have to exchange silent glances, communicate in medical jargon that Ross and Jens cannot possibly understand, and pretend to be failing just enough to keep their captors from realizing they are being played. But this is a incredibly dangerous game. Um, one slip up, one suspicious glance from Jens, or one impatient outburst from Ross, and the consequences could be fatal. The pressure on Lucas to keep his composure while knowing his family is in constant danger is going to be absolutely excruciating to watch. And let's not forget the ultimate goal of this forced delay. They are desperately waiting for someone to find Britt before the final step of the project is realized. We have to wonder, is Britt the only one who holds the true, unreplicable key to this entire cold synthesis? What if the calculations Liesl and Lucas are working on are intentionally missing the final, crucial component that only Britt's mind can unlock? It is a race against time as Sunny, Laura, and Brick search for Britt, unaware that every second they lose is another second Lucas and Liesl spend in their living hell. I keep asking myself how long they can possibly keep up this facade before Ross's patience completely evaporates. Ross is not a patient man, and Jens is far too intelligent to be fooled by minor laboratory delays for long. If they discover that Lucas and Liesl are actively sabotaging the project, the retaliation will be swift and merciless. We could see Lucas pushed to his absolute limit, forced to make a choice that goes against every medical oath he has ever taken, just to save Liesl's life or the lives of his family. The storyline is beautifully structured because it connects so many disparate elements of the canvas, bringing the medical world of the hospital directly into the dark, criminal underbelly of the city's power struggles. It highlights the vulnerability of the good people who try to remain clean in a town dominated by mobsters and shadow agencies. Lucas has always been a beacon of light, and watching that light get tested in the sterile, cold atmosphere of a captive lab is both heartbreaking and utterly compelling. As the days go by, the sense of dread only grows, and I cannot help but shake the feeling that a major tragedy is looming on the horizon. The writers are building a slow, agonizing tension that is far more effective than loud, explosive action sequences. It is the quiet moments of desperation, the whispered plans in the corner of the lab, and the terrifying realization of their helplessness that will keep us glued to our screens. We are left wondering if Sunny or Laura will piece the clues together in time, or if the rescue effort will come far too late to save Lucas and Liesl from the darkness. While some fans are fiercely arguing on social media that Liesl will burn the entire laboratory to the ground before she ever lets them win, others are deeply terrified that Lucas will be the one to break under the immense pressure, leaving the community completely divided on who will survive this nightmare.